Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Lam, sitting in for David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Hunter Biden pleads not guilty in Los Angeles court today. He could face a prison sentence if convicted on federal tax charges. Closing statements held for Trump's New York civic lawsuit. More on the legal battle. Major shifts in the weather. A polar vortex could usher in the coldest air of the season this following week. First up, Hunter Biden was in court today. He pleaded not guilty to federal tax charges. NTD's Christina Corona has more from the courthouse.
Hunter Biden made his first court appearance today here in Los Angeles, where he is facing 9 federal tax charges. Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, entered a plea of not guilty in response to charges concerning his failure to file and pay income taxes. The younger Biden failed to pay $1.4 million in taxes to the IRS. Hunter has been charged with 4 counts of failure to pay, 2 counts of failure to file, 2 counts of filing a false return, and a count of tax evasion. Instead, he allegedly used the money to fund an extravagant lifestyle that included drugs, escorts, luxury hotels and rental properties, and exotic cars. If convicted, Hunter could face an arrest warrant. U.S. District Judge Mark Scarsi said he's considering a June 20th trial date.
Now let's take a look at other top national headlines.
Closing arguments held today in former President Trump's civil fraud trial in New York. At a courthouse in Manhattan, Trump's attorney argued that the Trump organization didn't violate any generally accepted accounting practices in their financial statements. He claimed that the statements were actually understated and the brand value of Trump, which was not included as a separate asset, is worth billions. The lawyer also said Attorney General Letitia James undervalued properties like Mar-a-Lago. During closing arguments, Attorney Kevin Wallace for the state of New York argued Trump Organization's statements of financial condition were false every year from 2011 to 2021. Wallace affirmed a summary judgment Judge Arthur Engoron issued a week before the trial that found President Trump liable for fraud. Outside the courthouse, Trump accused the Attorney General and judge of political bias. Trump's attorney Alina Habba told reporters a consumer fraud statute was wrongfully used against President Trump and every one of his employees. Engoron said the earliest he would issue judgment is the end of January. And the United Nations International Court of Justice opened hearings today for South Africa's genocide allegations against Israel. South African lawyers said during the opening arguments that the latest Gaza war is part of a decades-long oppression of the Palestinians by Israel. They asked judges to impose binding preliminary orders on Israel, including an immediate halt to its military campaign. South African lawyer Adila Hassim had this to say.
Palestinians in Gaza are being killed by Israeli weaponry and bombs from air, land, and sea.
Israel has rejected the accusations of genocide as baseless and accused South Africa of playing advocate of the devil for Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday, Israel is acting in self-defense by eradicating Hamas, the terrorist group that launched an attack on October 7th, killing over 1,000 and taking hundreds of hostages. South Africa and Israel are both parties to the 1948 Genocide Convention, which obliges them to not commit genocide and also to prevent and punish it. The UN court is expected to rule on the emergency measures later this month. The court will not rule at that time on the genocide allegations. Those proceedings could take years. The court's decisions are final and without appeal, but the court has no way to enforce them. In the Middle East, Iran has seized an oil tanker carrying crude from Iraq en route to Turkey. According to Iranian state media, this news comes after the U.S. impounded the same ship last year when it sailed under a different name. It was part of an enforcement operation for oil sanctions. The latest incident happened near the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most strategically important waterways. It lies on the most direct route for oil shipments from the Middle East to other countries. Next, Google is laying off hundreds of employees. The tech giant is looking to lower costs and focus on the growing field of generative AI. Google reportedly let go of workers from multiple departments, including core engineering and Google Assistant. The company calls the layoffs part of reorganizations made in the normal course of business. The Alphabet Workers Union described the job cuts as needless. This is a group representing more than 1,400 workers at Google's parent company, Alphabet. Another tech giant is also downsizing. Amazon is eliminating roughly 35% of staffers at Twitch, Amazon's live streaming platform. According to Fortune, Twitch struggled to make a profit over the past 9 years. Layoffs are also coming to workers at Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios. Amazon officials say they want to spend more time on content that has a strong impact and trim other areas that aren't as successful.
Extreme cold weather hitting much of the U.S. from the northern plains in Montana to the Gulf Coast in Texas. Americans experiencing the coldest air of the winter so far. NTD's David Zhang has more.
Dubbed a polar vortex, freezing cold air from the Arctic region is bringing near blizzard conditions to Chicago and is expected to intensify in the Midwest in the coming days. The National Weather Service is showing a rapidly intensifying storm system over the Great Lakes region Friday into Saturday. Dozens, if not hundreds, of daily temperature records could be broken during this cold snap, bringing much difficulty to travel. Chicago is forecasted to hit a low of minus 10 degrees on Monday. Kansas City minus 12, Denver minus 7, Des Moines minus 17. Other cities like Seattle will all see below freezing temperatures. Iowa already saw a few feet of snow this year as canvassers do their last-minute push, talking to residents about the presidential race.
It's cold out here, but this is just the finishing week in a long year of us being, out here talking to voters.
But it's going to get even colder here. The state of Iowa is expecting below zero frigid temperatures during the Monday Iowa caucuses. On the East Coast, the strong winds and high waves pound the shore of Hampton Beach in New Hampshire. High tide reached the seaside roads, leaving behind the sea foam on Wednesday. Drone footage showed the vehicle driving through the accumulated foam in Ocean Boulevard, north of Hampton Beach State Park. Local authorities are advising people in the affected region to take precautionary measures when traveling in the coming days.
In Los Angeles, an elderly serial bank robber strikes again. He already spent 40 years in jail.
Los Angeles police said 71-year-old Bruce Edward Bell was arrested on December 21st for robbing a bank. He entered the location, grabbed an employee, and pointed a firearm. Bell forced the employee to walk over to a restricted access door. He demanded entry into the secure area and stated he would otherwise shoot the employee. Once inside, Bell ordered another employee to fill his bag with cash. Bell fled with over $60,000. Witnesses say they saw him drive away in a 2002 silver Volvo sedan and called 911. The police stopped him at a traffic stop and detained him. They recovered a black replica firearm and $64,000 in cash. Bell was arrested for kidnapping and booked into an LAPD jail facility. Bell had 4 prior bank robbery convictions and has served over 40 years in the Federal Department of Corrections. He was released in July 2021 and was on supervised release at the time of his arrest.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Plastics have been found in human blood, lungs, and the food we eat. What kind of effect is it having on our health, and what can we do about it? Shen Yun Performing Arts wowed theater goers in Modesto, California. We'll bring you audience reactions. A handful of legendary coaches part ways with their sports teams. More on who and a review of their legacies. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Lam. We're breathing and ingesting thousands of tiny plastic fragments on a daily basis. Now, recent studies found that bottled water contains hundreds of thousands of nanoplastics. NTD's Jason Blair spoke to an expert to find out how this can affect our health and what we can do about it.
In 2022, plastics were found to be in 80% of tested human blood samples. In 2023, plastics were found to accumulate in the respiratory system. They have been found in the air, water, and soil pretty much everywhere, even as far as the Arctic.
Plastic is what is considered a xenoestrogen. So it mimics estrogens, and our body, it's kind of like it can fit into our cellular receptors, which are like keyholes, but it's like sticking super glue in the keyhole instead, because it doesn't actually signal the cell to do what estrogen does. And so this sort of gums up the works, and then it creates estrogen dominance.
Downs said this can cause issues in both women and men.
Not just, period problems or fertility problems, but also estrogenic cancer types. And that's for men and women. And it can also cause what they call man boobs in layman's terms.
Plastic started being widely used in the mid-20th century, but since 2005, the amount on Earth is estimated to have more than doubled.
There's been so many studies on microplastics and nanoplastics affecting us in our lungs, because we're actually breathing them now because they're so small, and affecting our gut microbiome, and just wreaking havoc on so many systems in the body.
For most, avoiding all plastic is almost impossible, but there are some key areas a lot of people can focus on.
Maybe switching to more natural fiber clothes, eliminating plastic food and beverage containers, filtering your air, filtering your water, dusting your home regularly, because those tiny little particles can contain microplastics and nanoplastics.
Downs also said to even avoid BPA-free plastics and to try not to use plastic-lined paper to-go cups commonly used for coffee and other hot drinks. Jason Blair, NTD News.
In Modesto, California, Shen Yun audience members packed the theater for its 2 performances. Theatergoers praised the performers' skill level and the mission to bring back an ancient culture.
Audience members welcomed Shen Yun with 2 full houses in Modesto, California. They praised the performer's skill and artistry.
I absolutely love it. The choreography is just amazing. The dancers are so incredibly talented, such great athletes. And the combination of going from the stage to the screen just brings in a whole nother world of play.
Majestic, it's very peaceful. I think there's like a zen to it, I guess you can say.
Through live dance and music, Shen Yun's mission is to revive 5,000 years of traditional Chinese culture, which was nearly lost after decades of communist rule. The performance achieves this by showing different ethnic, folk, and legends from ancient times.
It is an ancient tradition, and a lot of that has been lost in today's world. There's a lot of lost art, and this is keeping that art alive for the millennia.
To see them championing the cause of the spiritual divinity is a bright light in the world at this time, especially in these times that are so difficult. They're like warriors for truth.
I feel that it was uplifting and it was good, and it has good things behind it. It's a good show.
NTD News, California.
Several legendary head coaches, including Patriots Bill Belichick, have parted ways with their respective programs, potentially leading to the most significant coaching shift in sports history. NTD's Carlos Reyes is here to break down these recent developments. Carlos, so Nick Saban, the iconic head coach of the University of Alabama, has recently announced his retirement. What's your initial reaction to Saban's retirement?
Well, David, thanks for having me. This is without a monumental moment in college football history, and I want that to be clear. Nick Saban isn't just a coach, he's a living legend. His impact on the game is immeasurable, and his retirement marks the end of an era in college football that has defined the sport for nearly 3 decades.
So 17 years at Alabama, 7 national championships, a remarkable career indeed. What do you think sets Saban apart as one of the greatest coaches in college football history?
Well, you look at the numbers, David, and they speak volumes. 7 national titles, 11 conference championships, 292 wins. Saban's record is simply unparalleled in the modern era. And we talk about his retirement, it's like the bully finally leaving you alone at lunchtime. But it's not just about his wins and losses, it's about his meticulous approach, the way he built a program and the impact he had on his players on and off the field. Don't get it twisted, Alabama football was a powerhouse before Saban arrived, but he elevated it to new heights. 11 SEC titles, a nearly perfect record in championship games, and an incredible record against top 10 opponents. It's a level of dominance that's hard to fathom. Saban's emphasis on doing things the right way has set a standard for excellence that few could match.
Now, with Saban's retirement, there's some concerning news about a 5-star recruit decommitting. How do you see this impacting Alabama's future?
Well, David, it's unfortunate. Losing a talent like Ryan Williams is undoubtedly a setback for Alabama. His decommitment, especially on the same day as Saban's retirement, raises concerns. Recruits often commit to a program because of the coach, and with Saban stepping down, we might see a ripple effect for the days to come. Current players and current recruits could reassess their commitments, and the program might face challenges in maintaining its recruiting dominance moving forward.
And finally, let's touch on some impressive statistics from Saban's tenure. No class he recruited played 4 years without winning a national championship, and he turned more players into first-round picks than he had losses at Alabama. What stands out to you the most?
Well, David, those numbers are mind-blowing, aren't they? The fact that every single recruiting class under Saban won a national championship speaks to the consistency and excellence he brought to Alabama, point blank, period. And let's not overlook the incredible stats of producing more first-round picks, 44, than losses, 29 total in his career. It's a testament to his ability to not only win games, but also develop NFL-caliber talent. But besides those mind-numbing statistics, David, I'd have to say that Saban's coaching tree is what really impresses me the most. Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, Billy Napier, Dan Lanning, Mario Cristobal. Those are just some of the names that blossom under Saban's tutelage.
Now, switching gears from one legendary coach to the next, Pete Carroll, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks for 14 seasons, has announced his departure. What are your initial thoughts on Pete Carroll stepping down?
Well, David, Pete Carroll leaving the Seahawks is a noteworthy moment in NFL history. His 14-season tenure, including 2 NFC championships and the only Super Bowl title in franchise history, has left a lasting impact on the organization.
Carlos, Carroll will be transitioning into an advisory role. What do you make of this move, and what led to his decision?
That's right, David. According to owner Jody Allen, Carroll will be moving into an advisory role. However, it's clear from Carroll's emotional farewell news conference that he wanted to continue as head coach. He spoke passionately about standing up for the coaching staff, players, and the accomplishments they've achieved over the years.
With Carroll's departure, the big question is who will be his replacement? Do you have any early thoughts on potential successors?
Well, David, the coaching search will be closely watched, and that's for sure. Whether Seattle stays within the Seahawks family or brings in a fresh voice, finding a coach who can build on Coach Carroll's legacy and rejuvenate the team is crucial. University of Washington head coach Kalen DeBoer makes a lot of sense in my opinion. We're talking about a man who has a lot of experience at the collegiate level, is fresh off a national championship run with the Huskies, and most importantly, he's right in the Seahawks' backyard. Nonetheless, general manager John Schneider will play a significant role in this decision, marking the first time he had complete control over personnel.
Yeah, indeed, a new chapter for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, wrapping things up, we have Bill Belichick officially announcing that he will be stepping down as the New England Patriots head coach. You talked briefly about the possibility of this happening this past Monday, Carlos. So any idea who can step up as the Patriots' new head coach?
Well, yeah, David, with Belichick stepping down, Jared Mayo, who's been viewed as the team's head coach in waiting, tops the list of in-house options, in my opinion. He turned down coaching interviews with other teams last year when the Patriots began contract extension discussions with him.
What about external candidates? Mike Vrabel, the former head coach of the Tennessee Titans, seems to be a name in the mix.
Well, yeah, David, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. Vrabel, a former Patriots linebacker and 3-time Super Bowl winner, could be a strong external candidate. There's a connection to New England, obviously, and his somewhat successful coaching experience with the Titans adds to his appeal.
Well, it's undoubtedly a period of transition for Alabama, the Seahawks, and the Patriots. Carlos, thank you for your insight.
No problem, David. It's always my pleasure.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Lamb, sitting in for David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.